Hey kids! I hope you're doing great. I can't believe it's December 2nd and we have 23 days until Christmas. Are you excited? I know I am. I love Christmas time. And I hope you've had a chance to open up your Advent kits and begin doing your family Advent bingo. We started it as a family a couple of nights ago, and it's been fun to just go through those cards and do some fun different things with them. But now, for the month of December, I wanted to bring you a story time once a week, and we're going to be reading through a book and do several chapters each week. And with that, if you want to grab a blanket, grab your favorite thing to snuggle with, if you even want to build a blanket fort, go ahead. That'd be great. And you can watch this story time while your mom and dad are making dinner or while they're busy doing something. But I just wanted, reading Christmas stories is one of my favorite things to do at Christmas time. So I just wanted to share that with you this Christmas season. So the book that we're going to be reading is called One Wintry Night by Ruth Bell Graham. And the beautiful pictures are drawn by Richard Jesse Watson. Caught in the Storm. The boy hunkered down and yanked his cap further over his ears as the wind rose to a roar across the ridge. Low, dark clouds moving down from the north were bringing darkness early. A snowflake touched his cheek. The boy was mountain tough, but his grandpa had warned him against taking a long hike alone on such a cold day. Still, the boy had the urge. He loved the mountains, especially the Seven Sisters. They were home to him. He'd lost track of how many times he'd hiked them. His grandpa used to climb with him. Only Grandpa's heart wasn't up to it now. Another gust of wind caught the boy off balance. Grabbing a tree for support, he lit the old possum lantern against the oncoming darkness. Then, in its flickering yellow glow, he noticed the leaves of laurel were curled up tight like pencils in the bitter cold. Again, the roar of the wind rose in the bare branches above him. The boy wasn't scared, but for the first time he wondered if he would make it home. He wasn't only mountain tough. He was mountain smart. He figured he was well past Big Piney now. Then he remembered the cove. The one his great-grandpa had settled. It couldn't be far, on the south side of the ridge between the Big Piney and Stompy Knob. Other folks had bought the property from the Mountain family some time ago. His grandpa used to tell stories of how he had helped build the place for them, fetching rocks from the mountain, stream beds, even from old still furnaces, for the chimneys and walls. If the boy could make it down there, then they'd let him in. Inside the log frame house, the woman heard the dogs bark. Not a friendly bark, but mean and fierce. She turned on the outside lights, peering through the little window by the front door. They were quiet now, but something was going on out there. The wind sounded like a freight train coming over the ridge, and the snowflakes were blowing sideways instead of falling straight down. Then she saw them. The two big dogs with a boy walking between like he'd known them before. The woman opened the door. "I'm Zeb Morris!" the boy yelled breathlessly as he ran toward the lighted entrance. "My grandpa, he helped build this." Before he could finish the sentence, the boy stumbled. The woman caught him and helped him inside. Chapter 2. The Boy and the Woman. Next morning the boy woke up and peered drowsily out of the window upon a strange world. Where the sky was usually blue, the clouds were almost black, and where the ridge should have risen dark, it was white and soft. The dark, leafless trees, they too were white, and huge snowflakes were falling silently. Snow always filled the boy with excitement. He jumped from the big bed before noticing how high it was and nearly cried out in pain. He didn't, but when he looked at his ankle he had twisted last night, he saw it was swollen and blue. "Doggone it!" he exclaimed. Now, how would he get home? He pulled on all but his left sock and shoe and limped across the hall to what looked like a kitchen. "Good morning, Zeb," the woman said. "Morning, ma'am," he replied. The smell of frying bacon, fresh coffee, and wood smoke made him feel at home. He stood shyly beside the door, the large gray and white striped cat rubbing against his good leg. "Lost a shoe?" the woman asked. "No'm. Coming down by the old bear's den last evening where it's almighty steep, I twisted it. Didn't really notice it till I jumped off that bed. It sure is high." "That's because there's a trundle bed under it. Now let me have a look." With gentle hands, she carefully felt the ankle. "You've got a bad sprain. We'll soak it in ice water, then wrap it well. I'm afraid you couldn't have hiked home today anyway. We're snowed in. I called friends in North Fork to get word to your grandfather that you are here." "I'm obliged to you," the boy said. He stuffed down 2 helpings of scrambled eggs and bacon while the puffy ankle soaked in a pan of water. Then the woman carefully wrapped it in a wide elastic bandage. "You take this cane," she said, "and explore the house to see what your grandfather helped to build. If your ankle begins to hurt, climb on a sofa and raise your ankle with some pillows. I'll read to you and we'll talk about your grandfather. When evening comes, if you like, I'll tell you the Christmas story." It had been a full day, a fun day. By the time darkness fell, snow had covered the second rail of the fence outside the living room window. The woman lit a fire in the fireplace that was large enough for the boy to stand in. A Christmas tree with little white lights that twinkled against the old hewn logs reached to the beamed ceiling. The boy leaned back, a pillow tucked comfortably behind him, and another under the sprained ankle. "I like your house," he said suddenly. "Feels like home." "Well, that's the nicest thing anyone could say about it," she said, smiling. "It's fun dressing it up for Christmas. Always has been. We have 5 children, and they're all married now with homes of their own. But we dress up little Piney Cove for Jesus' birthday every Christmas, and if any of them can come home, they're more than welcome." "Got any grandkids?" 19. "Golly!" the boy exclaimed. "Just like some mountain folks." "Thank you, Zeb. I consider that a real compliment. You know," she continued, eyes smiling, "there's a gift for you under the tree." "For me?" Gray's eyes widened in surprise. Among the piles of gifts awaiting the family's arrival, she picked up a long, skinny one wrapped in bright red with a shiny ribbon. Slowly he opened it. Unused to gifts, he didn't want to spoil the ribbon or tear the paper. There, across his lap, lay a walking stick made from a vine-strangled sapling. "It was here when we bought the place," explained the woman. "They said it belonged to your grandfather. When you showed up last night, I remembered it. I said to myself, that stick ought to belong to Zeb." The boy's hands felt along the curved groove left by the vine, his eyes bright. "I sure am pleased to get it," the boy said, "mighty pleased." And he couldn't say any more. "Now," the woman announced, "the Christmas story." Chapter 3. In the Beginning. The woman put a log on the fire, which exploded into hundreds of tiny red stars. They twinkled against the sooty back of the fireplace and disappeared up the chimney. "The first Christmas happened almost 2,000 years ago," she began. "That's when the angel appeared to the shepherds outside Bethlehem. But the story doesn't begin there. It couldn't have, because the angel called Jesus a savior or a rescuer. Someone must have been in trouble. To find out about it, we have to jump into a time machine and go back before Mary and Joseph were born, back before there was any town of Bethlehem. In fact, so far back, there was no earth." Whoops. Now our time machine has nothing to sit on. She glanced at him, and the boy grinned back. Then she continued. "In the beginning, The earth was shapeless and empty, and darkness was over the face of the deep. Then God began to move. Light, God commanded in a voice that cracked like thunder. There was a brilliant flash, and God separated the light from the darkness. Next, he set the sun, moon, and stars in their orbits. Then he shaped our earth and began filling it with wonders. He scooped out deep oceans and heaped up high mountains. In the oceans, he put huge fish, prickly sea urchins, octopuses, and great sea turtles. On the mountains, he set down goats, bears, and bobcats. The valleys and plains he filled with all sorts of surprises: porcupines, tigers, parrots, and deer. Then rhinoceroses, giraffes, and warthogs. You couldn't count all the creatures he made. Some looked like they were made with love, others with a chuckle. Some even looked like a bad joke. And not one was exactly like any other. It was a real zoo. Then came the most exciting moment of all. God made a man and a woman to rule over all he had made. He called the man Adam, and the woman he called Eve. He brought all his creatures to Adam so the man could give them names. Whatever Adam decided to call them, that became their name. Whether an owl, a whale, or a pig, Adam must have had a ball. God was enjoying Adam and Eve. In fact, he loved them more than anything else he had created. He chose the most beautiful spot on earth for them to live, the Garden of Eden. And he gave Adam and Eve everything they needed to be happy. They had crystal clear rivers to drink from and swim in, nuts and berries to eat, vines to swing on, flowers to smell, and birds to sing them songs. They didn't need clothes, and they were not embarrassed. They didn't need spears or slings, for they had no enemies. The lions purred instead of growling. Horses and hyenas came loping and leaping when Adam called because they knew he was their loving master. Adam and Eve had a wonderful time as they pruned branches and turned the soil around the plants. Working was fun, and they never grew tired. In the afternoon, when the last tool was put away, Adam and Eve would run with the antelope, swim with the otter, and sing with the oriole. The best part always came in the cool of the day. As the leaves began to dance in the gentle evening breezes, God would walk with Adam and Eve in the garden. Everything was beautiful. It looked like all would live happily ever after. The woman's voice trailed off. She sat silent, thinking. "Did they?" the boy asked. "No, I'm afraid not," she said, for soon something was about to go terribly wrong in the garden. And we'll stop there for today, but if you tune in with me next week, we will pick up with the story there, and you can find out the terrible thing that happened. Hope you have a great week, anticipating and waiting for Christmas.